Hello and welcome back to the Dinar Daily, your premier source for in-depth analysis and the latest developments regarding the Iraqi currency. Today, we are unpacking a narrative that has sent shockwaves through the financial community, marking a potential turning point that many have anticipated for years. We are looking closely at reports concerning the November 2025 publication within the official Iraqi Gazette, a document that reportedly serves as the definitive legal framework for the exchange and revaluation of the national currency. This is not merely another routine update or a recirculation of online rumors. The information we are breaking down today suggests a formalized government-sanctioned protocol that moves the conversation from the realm of speculation into the concrete world of banking regulations and international finance. The focus of this broadcast is to dissect the specific instructions laid out for holders of the currency, particularly those categorized under the Tier 4B designation, to ensure our viewers are fully informed about the reported procedures. For years, the community surrounding the Iraqi dinar has navigated a landscape filled with unverified claims and hopeful projections. But the release of a detailed protocol in the Iraqi Gazette fundamentally changes the nature of the discussion. This publication is the official legal journal of Iraq, meaning that any laws, decrees, or regulations printed within its pages carry the full weight of the national government. The reports indicate that this new framework details the specific mechanisms by which the country intends to transition from its current multi-rate system to a single, globally recognized exchange rate. This transition is not described as a vague goal for the future, but as an immediate process with a structured timeline. Understanding the gravity of a Gazette publication is essential because it signifies that the Central Bank of Iraq and associated government bodies have moved past the planning phase and are now reportedly entering the execution phase of their monetary reform strategy. A central component of this new framework is the explicit recognition and categorization of Tier 4B investors, a group that has long been the subject of debate and discussion. To clarify for our audience, Tier 4B refers to non-institutional, private individuals who have legally purchased and held Iraqi dinar through registered dealers and legitimate financial channels. Unlike sovereign entities, central banks, or large institutional investors, this tier represents the everyday individual who saw potential in the economic recovery of Iraq. The reported Gazette framework acknowledges this group not as an afterthought, but as a priority sector eligible for early access to the redemption process. This recognition is critical because it validates the status of private holders within the official banking system, provided they can meet the stringent verification requirements that are now being implemented to ensure the integrity of the exchange. The timeline provided in these recent reports is incredibly specific, underscoring the urgency for those who fall into this category to have their affairs in order. According to the information verified through financial planning contacts referenced in the report, the notification window for Tier 4B is scheduled to open officially on November 29, 2025. This date is described as the commencement of the appointment scheduling phase, a period where the banking system will begin accepting requests for exchange slots. It is important to note that this is not a walk-in process. The security protocols demand a structured flow of participants. The actual physical redemption process is reported to begin shortly thereafter, running from December 1 through December 15. This 2-week window is characterized as a phased rollout, designed to manage the volume of exchanges efficiently across various authorized centers globally. Following this intense period of exchange activity, the timeline points to a critical deadline commencing on December 15, which involves a comprehensive compliance audit led by the International Monetary Fund. This audit is described as a mechanism to review the exchanges that have taken place and ensure that all international banking standards were upheld during the redemption process. The existence of an IMF-led audit immediately following the exchange window suggests a high level of international oversight and adherence to global anti-money laundering standards. For the individual holder, this emphasizes the importance of acting within the prescribed windows. The narrative suggests that missing these specific dates, November 29 for scheduling and the first half of December for execution, could result in significant delays or the loss of opportunity to participate in the initial phases of the revaluation. Preparation for these appointments involves far more than simply showing up with currency in hand. The documentation requirements are reported to be rigorous and non-negotiable. The Gazette framework outlines a comprehensive list of items that must be presented to verify both the identity of the holder and the legitimacy of the assets. Primary among these is a valid government-issued photo identification, such as a passport or a driver's license, which remains the standard for all significant financial transactions. However, to comply with stricter Know Your Customer regulations, holders will also reportedly need to provide secondary proof of residence, such as a recent utility bill or bank statement. These measures are standard in global banking to prevent fraud and ensure that the funds are being dispensed to verified individuals with a clear legal footprint. Beyond personal identification, the provenance of the currency itself is a major focus of the new protocols. The reports state that individuals must provide original purchase receipts from the registered dealers where the currency was acquired. This requirement is designed to establish a clear chain of custody and prove that the dinar was obtained through legal, sanctioned channels. In addition to receipts, the framework suggests that holders should have a record of the serial numbers for the notes they intend to exchange. This level of detail aids the banks in verifying that the notes are authentic and have not been flagged in any databases as stolen or counterfeit. For those who may have held the currency for many years or inherited it, a notarized affidavit of ownership is highly recommended to bridge any gaps in documentation and provide a sworn legal statement regarding the asset's history. The location and environment of these exchanges are also changing, moving away from general bank tellers to secure, dedicated redemption centers. The narrative indicates that major Tier 1 banks, institutions such as Chase, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America, are currently updating their internal systems to accommodate these specific transactions. These redemption centers are described as high-security environments, often located within specific branches or separate corporate facilities designed to handle high-value transactions with discretion and safety. The shift to specialized centers rather than standard teller windows highlights the unique nature of this event, ensuring that staff trained specifically in these new protocols are the ones managing the verification and transfer of funds. Accessing these redemption centers will reportedly require navigating a secure digital environment to set appointments. The warning embedded in the recent reports is stark. Do not trust random links on social media or third-party websites. The official scheduling is said to take place through secure portals that will be communicated directly to verified holders or published on official bank websites once the notification window opens on November 29. This digital gateway serves as the first line of defense against scams, ensuring that only legitimate holders enter the system. The appointment blocks are expected to last between 30 and 60 minutes, allowing sufficient time for the verification of documents, the counting and validation of currency, and the discussion of exchange terms without rushing the process. Security during the appointment itself is a paramount concern, with the Gazette reportedly confirming the use of biometric verification. This modernization of the banking process means that participants should expect to provide fingerprints, facial recognition scans, or potentially both during their appointment. These biometric markers are connected to international security databases to instantly confirm identity and screen for any red flags related to financial crimes. This integration of biometrics aligns with global trends in high finance security, ensuring that the person presenting the currency is irrefutably who they claim to be. It is a protective measure for both the bank and the individual, creating an immutable record of the transaction that safeguards against identity theft and fraud. One of the most discussed aspects of the Tier 4B exchange process is the potential availability of contract rates. These are described in the reports as premium exchange rates that exceed the publicly listed international value of the currency. The narrative suggests that these rates are reserved for private holders who meet all documentation criteria and are willing to agree to specific banking terms, while the standard international rate is available to anyone. The contract rate is portrayed as a negotiated tier that acknowledges the long-term holding status of Tier 4B investors. However, obtaining these rates is not automatic. It requires a flawless presentation of ownership proof and a willingness to engage in a more complex financial agreement with the exchanging institution. Entering into an agreement for a contract rate reportedly comes with strings attached, most notably the requirement to sign a non-disclosure agreement, or NDA. These legal contracts bind the individual to secrecy regarding the specific rate received and the terms of their settlement. The reports indicate that banks utilize NDA to maintain market stability and protect their proprietary offers. Furthermore, accepting a contract rate might involve restrictions on how the funds can be accessed, such as structured payouts over time or requirements to keep the capital within the bank's investment ecosystem for a fixed period. This trade-off, higher value in exchange for privacy and potential liquidity controls, is a decision that holders must be prepared to make during their appointment. For those who prefer immediate access to their funds without legal encumbrances, the standard rate remains the alternative option. The news reports clarify that while the contract rates generate the most excitement, the base international rate will still represent the revalued status of the currency as determined by the Iraqi government's new monetary policy. Choosing the standard rate typically means fewer restrictions, no need for a non-disclosure agreement, and a more straightforward transaction process. This distinction is vital for financial planning, as individuals must weigh the allure of a higher return against the flexibility of liquid assets. Consulting with a professional advisor prior to the appointment is strongly suggested to understand which path aligns best with personal financial goals. The financial implications of this exchange extend significantly into the realm of taxation, a topic that the Gazette framework reportedly addresses with seriousness. The narrative emphasizes that in the eyes of tax authorities like the IRS, profits derived from currency exchange are generally treated as capital gains. This classification means that a portion of the proceeds will be owed to the federal government and potentially to state governments depending on local laws. The reports warn that the banking systems will be fully integrated with tax reporting agencies, meaning that any transaction will generate immediate records such as 1099 forms or foreign asset disclosures. Attempting to evade these obligations is described as a dangerous gamble that could lead to audits, penalties, or legal action. To navigate this complex tax landscape, the guidance provided in the recent updates strongly advocates for the engagement of a certified public accountant or a tax attorney specializing in currency windfalls. These professionals can assist in determining the exact tax liability based on the duration the currency was held, distinguishing between short-term and long-term capital gains which carry different tax rates. Furthermore, advanced planning might allow for the use of legal financial structures, such as trusts or charitable gifting strategies, that can help manage the tax burden. The key takeaway from the report is that these strategies must be implemented before the exchange takes place. as retroactive planning is rarely effective in mitigating tax liabilities once the funds have hit the account. Post-exchange management is another critical phase highlighted in the transcript. Once the transaction is complete, the funds are transferred to the individual's bank account, but the relationship with the institution may just be beginning. Depending on the volume of the exchange, banks may offer or require consultations with wealth managers to discuss the preservation of capital. The sudden acquisition of significant liquidity requires a disciplined approach to avoid the common pitfalls that affect lottery winners and recipients of windfalls. The advice circulating with these reports urges a cooling-off period, a time to refrain from major purchases or risky investments until the emotional high of the event has settled and a long-term financial plan is solidified. The narrative also touches upon the global context, noting that the developments in Iraq are being watched closely by investors holding other currencies, specifically the Vietnamese dong and the Zimbabwean currency. The reports draw parallels between the steps being taken by the Central Bank of Iraq and similar economic maneuvers in Vietnam and Zimbabwe. Vietnam's focus on gold reserves and blockchain testing, alongside Zimbabwe's push for a gold-backed currency system, are seen as parallel tracks toward revaluation. The Iraqi model, as detailed in the Gazette, is described as a potential blueprint that these other nations might follow. Therefore, the successful execution of the Tier 4B exchange in Iraq serves as a critical indicator for holders of these other exotic currencies. Public interest in these developments has reportedly reached an all-time high, with search trends and social media discussions spiking significantly in November 2025. This surge in attention is not merely passive curiosity. It represents a global community of investors who are actively preparing for the event. The widespread sharing of guides, checklists, and video updates suggests a mobilized base that is ready to act on the information provided in the Gazette. This collective readiness puts pressure on the banking institutions to ensure their systems are flawless, as the demand for appointments is expected to be immense the moment the window opens on November 29. It is crucial to reiterate the warning regarding the proliferation of scams during this sensitive period. The high stakes and emotional investment involved make this community a prime target for bad actors. The broadcast emphasizes that legitimate banks will never ask for your currency to be mailed to them, nor will they ask for upfront fees to secure a rate. The entire process is designed to happen face-to-face within the secure confines of a redemption center. Any offer that promises a backdoor deal or a way to bypass the official appointment queue is flagged as a likely fraud attempt. Adhering strictly to the protocols released in the Gazette and communicating only through official banking channels is the only way to ensure the safety of one's assets. The concept of a narrow window is a recurring theme in this news cycle. The timeframe of essentially 2 weeks for the primary redemption phase creates a logistical bottleneck that requires absolute readiness. The report advises that holders should essentially have a go bag of documents ready, IDs copied, receipts organized, and serial numbers listed, so that when the notification is received they can focus entirely on securing the appointment. There is no grace period mentioned in the Gazette for those who are disorganized or miss the cutoff dates due to negligence. This efficiency is demanded by the sheer scale of the operation and the subsequent audit scheduled for mid-December. As we look deeper into the specific banking preparations, it is noted that the internal rate markers are already being populated on the screens of the redemption center staff. This technical detail implies that the rates are not being decided on the fly, but have been pre-calculated and loaded into the secure financial networks. When a holder sits down for their appointment, the banker will reportedly be looking at live date, fed directly from the Central Bank of Iraq's new system. This synchronization between the source of the currency and the international dispensing banks is the technological backbone that makes the Tier 4B exchange possible. For those holding the Vietnamese dong or Zimbabwe notes, the advice is to treat the Iraqi rollout as a dress rehearsal for their own potential future exchanges. The documentation requirements, proof of purchase, IDs, and clean legal standing are likely to be identical across different currency revaluations. By observing the challenges and successes of the Iraqi dinar exchange process, holders of other currencies can refine their own preparations. The interconnectivity of global finance means that a successful reset in one region often accelerates confidence and procedural frameworks in others. As we approach the dates mentioned in these reports, the mental preparation is just as important as the paperwork. The transition from holding a physical note to managing digital wealth is a psychological shift. The broadcast encourages viewers to stay grounded and not to let the magnitude of the event cloud their judgment. Decisions made in the appointment room, particularly regarding contract rates and NDA, will have long-lasting effects. Being calm, informed, and professionally advised is the ultimate strategy for navigating this historic financial event. In summary, the information stemming from the November 2025 Iraqi Gazette presents a comprehensive and imminent roadmap for the redemption of the dinar. From the opening of the notification window on November 29 to the finalization of the IMF audit on December 15, every step is accounted for in this reported legal framework. The requirements for Tier 4B are strict but clear. Verify your identity, prove your ownership, and act within the specified timeframe. The opportunity to access contract rates exists, but it is paired with the responsibility of legal agreements and tax compliance. Thank you for tuning in to the Dinar Daily for this critical update. As the situation continues to evolve, we will remain vigilant in monitoring the official channels and banking announcements to bring you the most accurate information available. This is a time for preparation, organization, and prudence. Please remember to consult with your own legal and financial professionals before making any decisions. Stay safe, stay informed, and we will be back with more news as it breaks.